The shuttle descended through the morning clouds toward the Galactic Defense Academy, its sleek hull gleaming silver against the blue sky. Inside, Princess Zara of the Velkan Empire sat straight in her chair, her purple skin shimmering with the natural armor plates that marked her royal bloodline. Her 4 arms moved gracefully as she adjusted her ceremonial robes, each movement precise and controlled. Today was important. As the daughter of Emperor Valak, she would inspect the academy and decide if the Velkan Empire should increase their support for this galactic alliance. Her father had given her this task because she understood military strength. She had commanded fleets and conquered systems. She knew what real warriors looked like. The shuttle touched down on the academy's main platform with barely a vibration. Through the window, Zara could see the impressive buildings that housed cadets from dozens of worlds. Tall spires reached toward the sky, their surfaces covered with training grounds and weapon ranges. This place was supposed to create the galaxy's finest defenders. The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss. Academy Commander Thex, a towering being from the crystal world of Nexus, waited outside. His transparent body caught the sunlight and threw rainbow patterns across the platform. "Your Highness," Commander Thex said, bowing low. "Welcome to the Galactic Defense Academy. We are honored by your visit." Zara stepped from the shuttle, her boots clicking against the metal platform. "Commander Thex. I trust you have prepared a demonstration of your finest cadets. My father expects a full report on the quality of training here." "Of course, Your Highness. I have assigned our best escort to show you everything." Thex gestured toward a figure approaching from the main building. Zara turned to look and felt her confidence falter slightly. Walking toward them was clearly a human, and he looked nothing like what she expected from the galaxy's finest. He was average height, with pale skin and dark hair. No natural armor. No visible weapons. No enhanced muscles or psychic glow. He looked soft, almost fragile compared to the warriors she knew. The human stopped in front of them and offered a respectful bow. "Your Highness, I am Tom Rivera. I have been assigned to escort you during your visit." Zara studied him carefully. His uniform was clean and properly worn, but that meant nothing. Anyone could wear a uniform. What mattered was the warrior beneath it. Looking at Tom, she saw only weakness. "This is my escort," she asked Commander Thex, not bothering to hide her disappointment. "I was expecting someone more suitable for such an important inspection." Tom's face remained calm, showing no reaction to her words. Commander Thex shifted slightly, his crystal body making soft chiming sounds. "Tom is one of our finest cadets, Your Highness. He has excelled in all areas of training." "Has he?" Zara looked Tom up and down again. "Tell me, Cadet, what makes you qualified to escort a member of the Velkan royal family?" "I know the academy well, Your Highness," Tom replied quietly. "I can answer any questions you have about our training programs and facilities." His voice was steady but unremarkable. No commanding presence. No hint of the deadly skills that should mark an elite warrior. Zara sighed internally. This was already becoming a waste of time. "Very well," she said. "Show me these training programs you speak of." Tom nodded and began walking toward the main building. Zara followed, with Commander Thex beside her. As they walked, Tom began explaining the Academy's history and mission, but Zara found herself barely listening. Instead, she watched other cadets training in the distance. There was a group of Krex warriors practicing with their energy weapons. Each Krex stood 7 feet tall, their thick hide naturally resistant to most forms of attack. Their weapons fired bolts of plasma that could melt through starship armor. Now those were real warriors. The Academy trains approximately 5,000 cadets from 47 different worlds, Tom was saying as they entered the main building. Each species brings unique abilities that complement our overall defensive strategy. "And what abilities do humans bring?" Zara asked, genuinely curious about this puzzle. Tom paused for a moment. We adapt well to different situations, Your Highness. Humans are good at working with other species and finding solutions to complex problems. Zara almost laughed. Adaptation and cooperation were not warrior skills. They were the abilities of servants and negotiators. I see. And in actual combat? Humans serve in all combat roles throughout the galaxy, Tom answered. We have distinguished records in both space and ground operations. They entered a large training hall where dozens of cadets practiced combat techniques. Zara's attention immediately went to a group of Thorian cadets sparring with each other. Each Thorian had 6 arms and natural bone weapons that extended from their forearms. They moved like dancers, striking multiple targets simultaneously with deadly precision. Impressive, Zara commented, watching the Thorians flow through their combat forms. How do human cadets compare to warriors like these? Each species has different strengths, Tom replied diplomatically. Thorians excel at close combat with multiple opponents. Humans tend to focus on tactical thinking and endurance. Endurance. Zara shook her head. In real combat, battles were decided by strength, speed, and power. Endurance only mattered if you were weak enough to let the fight drag on. Strong warriors ended fights quickly. They moved to the next training area, where Zephyrian cadets practiced their natural flying abilities combined with energy projection. The Zephyrians soared through the air on translucent wings, firing precise bolts of bioelectric energy at targets below. Each shot hit exactly where intended. Your people have no natural flight ability, Zara observed. No energy projection. No armor. How exactly do they compete with beings like this? We use technology to enhance our capabilities, Tom said. Human engineering has developed some of the most advanced equipment in the galaxy. Technology. Tools and machines to make up for natural weakness. Zara had seen this before. Species that relied on external devices never lasted long when those devices failed. Real strength came from within. They continued the tour through weapons training, tactical simulation, and combat psychology courses. At each stop, Zara saw impressive displays of natural ability from various alien species. The Kaldorians demonstrated their ability to phase through solid matter. The Nexari showed how they could mentally control multiple weapons simultaneously. The Valtan cadets revealed their natural camouflage abilities that made them nearly invisible. And at each stop, Tom quietly explained how humans participated in these same programs. But Zara noticed he never claimed humans were superior at anything. He always spoke of adaptation, cooperation, and making the best of limited natural abilities. By late afternoon, Zara's patience was wearing thin. They had visited nearly every facility in the academy, and she still had not seen anything to justify human participation in galactic defense. If anything, she was more convinced than ever that humans were taking up space that could be better used by stronger species. Tell me honestly, Cadet, she said as they walked toward the final stop on their tour. Why should the galaxy trust its defense to a species with no natural advantages? What happens when you face an enemy stronger than your technology can handle? Tom stopped walking and turned to face her. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been amusement or perhaps annoyance. But it passed quickly, and his expression returned to its usual calm politeness. I suppose we would do what humans have always done, Your Highness, he said quietly. We would find a way. Find a way, Zara repeated. That is your answer. Hope and determination. Sometimes that is enough, Tom replied. They had reached the Academy's Mission Planning Center, where cadets learned to coordinate complex military operations. Inside, teams of mixed species worked together on tactical scenarios. Zara watched humans working alongside beings far stronger and more naturally gifted than themselves. Tomorrow's field exercise should provide a good demonstration, Tom said. You will see all species working together in a realistic combat simulation. Field exercise? Zara asked. Yes, Your Highness. Commander Thex arranged for you to observe an advanced training mission in the Karnak Preserve. It will show how different species coordinate their abilities in actual field conditions. Zara nodded. Perhaps this field exercise would finally show her something interesting. At the very least, it would give her a chance to see these various species in action against real challenges instead of controlled classroom situations. I will need a more experienced escort for such an important demonstration, she said. No offense intended, Cadet, but tomorrow requires someone with actual combat experience. Of course, Your Highness, Tom replied without any change in expression. I will arrange for Cadet Vex of the Crex Dominion to escort you instead. He has extensive combat experience. As they walked back toward the main building, Zara felt satisfied with her decision. Tomorrow she would see what these galactic defenders could really do, guided by a proper warrior instead of this unremarkable human. She glanced at Tom as he quietly arranged her transportation back to her quarters. He showed no sign of disappointment or wounded pride at being replaced. That lack of reaction told her everything she needed to know about humans. They simply accepted their limitations instead of fighting to overcome them. The next morning would be different. Tomorrow she would see real warriors in action, and she could finally write the report her father expected. The galaxy's defense was clearly in capable hands, as long as those hands belonged to the right species. What Zara did not know was that the field exercise location had been changed at the last minute due to reports of dangerous creatures in the area. She also did not know that Tom's instructors had debated whether to warn her about what tomorrow might bring. Most importantly, she did not know that every alien instructor at the academy had learned to watch for one particular sign when dealing with their human cadets. They had learned to pay very careful attention when a human's eyes went completely calm. Because when humans stopped showing emotion, it usually meant the real human was about to emerge. The morning sun painted the sky orange and pink as Princess Zara prepared for the field exercise. She had slept well, looking forward to finally seeing real warriors in action instead of that disappointing human from yesterday. Her new escort, Cadet Vex of the Crex Dominion, would surely provide a much better demonstration of galactic military prowess. Zara dressed in her field uniform, a sleek outfit designed for outdoor operations. Her 4 arms moved efficiently as she checked her equipment. Today she would observe how different species work together in realistic combat situations. This was exactly what she needed for her report to the Emperor. A knock on her door interrupted her preparations. She opened it to find Tom standing in the hallway, looking as unremarkable as ever in his standard academy uniform. Your Highness, Tom said with a respectful bow. I bring unfortunate news about today's exercise. What kind of news? Zara asked, already feeling her good mood starting to fade. Cadet Vex became ill during the night, Tom explained. The medical staff believes he consumed something that disagreed with his biology. He is unable to participate in today's mission. Zara felt her jaw tighten. This was exactly the kind of problem she should have expected. And I suppose there are no other qualified escorts available. Actually, Your Highness, Commander Thex has assigned me to escort you again, Tom said. I know the exercise area well, and all the other senior cadets are participating in the simulation itself. Of course. Zara closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had hoped to observe real warriors today, not spend another day with this soft human who probably knew more about filing reports than actual combat. Very well, she said. But I expect a proper demonstration today. I need to see what these cadets can actually do under pressure. You will, Your Highness, Tom replied. Today's exercise takes place in the Karnak Preserve, which provides realistic terrain and environmental challenges. 30 minutes later, Zara found herself on another shuttle, this time heading toward the Wilderness Preserve. Besides Tom, the group included 6 elite cadets from different worlds. There was Crix, a massive Thorian warrior with natural bone weapons. Sarah, a Zephyrian who could fly and project energy. Dex, a Kaldorian with phasing abilities. Nala, a Nexari with mental powers. Rock, a Krex with thick armor and plasma weapons. And Zin, a Valtan with natural camouflage. These were the kind of warriors Zara expected to see. Each one possessed natural abilities that made them formidable in combat. As the shuttle flew toward the preserve, she listened to them discuss tactics and strategy with the confidence of seasoned fighters. Tom sat quietly in the back, checking equipment and reviewing maps of the exercise area. The other cadets barely acknowledged his presence, treating him like support staff rather than a fellow warrior. Zara found this entirely appropriate. Someone had to carry supplies and handle communications while the real fighters did their work. The exercise scenario involves tracking and neutralizing a simulated enemy force, Tom explained as they approached the landing zone. The terrain includes dense forest, rocky hills, and several river crossings. Weather conditions are clear with good visibility. The shuttle set down in a small clearing surrounded by tall trees. As the group disembarked, Zara could see why this location had been chosen for training. The forest was thick and dark, with plenty of places for enemies to hide. The ground was uneven, covered with fallen logs and thick underbrush. This would definitely test the cadets' abilities. Your mission parameters are loaded into your tactical displays, Tom said, handing each cadet a small device. The enemy force consists of automated units with advanced sensors and weapons. Your objective is to locate and disable all units within 6 hours. The cadets spread out, each taking point positions based on their natural abilities. Sarah took to the air, using her flight to scout ahead. Dex phased partially out of normal space, making himself harder to detect. Nala extended her mental awareness, searching for electronic signatures. The others moved into formation, weapons ready. Tom took position at the rear of the group with communication equipment and supplies. Zara walked beside him, observing how the different species coordinated their abilities. This was more like what she had expected to see. For the first hour, everything went according to plan. The cadets moved through the forest with impressive skill, using their natural advantages to overcome environmental challenges. Sarah spotted enemy positions from above. Dex scouted dangerous areas by phasing through obstacles. Nala detected electronic ambushes before they could activate. Even Zara had to admit they worked well together. Each species contributed something unique, and their combined abilities were greater than any individual strength. Perhaps there was something to this cooperation approach after all. They had successfully disabled 3 enemy units and were approaching the 4th target zone when the emergency sirens began. The sound cut through the forest like a blade, rising and falling in a pattern that made every cadet freeze in place. Zara had never heard anything like it, but the effect on the cadets was immediate and terrifying. The confident warriors who had been moving through the forest suddenly looked like frightened children. "What is that?" Zara demanded, her own voice tight with concern. Tom was already activating his communication device, speaking rapidly into the transmitter. His calm demeanor had not changed, but Zara noticed his movements had become more precise and focused. "Emergency alert from the main facility," Tom said, his voice steady. "There has been a containment breach in the research sector." "What kind of breach?" Crix asked, his massive frame tense with worry. Tom listened to his communicator for another moment before responding. "Ravenclaw hunters. A pack of 6 adults escaped during routine transport. Last known location was the northern section of the preserve." The reaction from the other cadets was immediate and panic-inducing. Sarah dropped from the air, landing hard and forgetting to use her wings to cushion the impact. Dex phased completely back into normal space and began looking around wildly. Nala's mental abilities seemed to shut down entirely as she pressed her hands to her head. Zara looked from one cadet to another, confusion mixing with growing alarm. "What exactly are Ravenclaw hunters?" It was Rock who answered, his thick armor plates rattling as he spoke. "They are the most dangerous predators known to galactic science. 8 feet tall, crystalline claws that can cut through starship hulls, enhanced senses that can track prey across star systems. Nothing has ever defeated them in direct combat." "Nothing?" Zara asked. They were created by the old empire as the perfect biological weapon, Sarah added, her voice shaking. When the old empire fell, the hunters just kept hunting. They have wiped out entire military units. Elite special forces, powered armor divisions, even psychic combat specialists. Nothing stops them. Zara felt cold understanding wash over her. They were trapped in a wilderness area with creatures that had never been defeated by any military force in galactic history. How long until evacuation? Tom consulted his communicator again. Nearest shuttle is 4 hours away. The Academy is implementing full lockdown procedures until the hunters are contained. 4 hours, Nala whispered. We just have to hide for 4 hours. Hiding will not work, Dex said, his phase abilities flickering nervously. They can track through multiple dimensions. There is nowhere to hide from Ravenclaw hunters. The cadets began to cluster together, their earlier confidence completely gone. These were supposed to be the galaxy's finest young warriors, trained to handle any threat. But faced with an enemy that had never been defeated, they were paralyzed with fear. Zara found herself looking at Tom, who was studying his maps and equipment with the same calm focus he had shown all day. While every other cadet was barely holding back panic, he seemed to be making calculations and planning their next move. What do we do? Crix asked, directing the question to the group in general. We stay together, Rock suggested. Combined firepower might slow them down. No chance, Sarah replied. Their armor can withstand ship-grade weapons. Personal arms are useless. Maybe we can outrun them, Dex offered hopefully. They can run at 60 miles per hour through any terrain, Nala said. For days without stopping. As the cadets continued to discuss increasingly desperate options, Zara noticed something strange happening to Tom. His posture had changed. The slight slouch was gone, replaced by perfect balance. His eyes had stopped moving randomly and were now scanning the forest in a systematic pattern. His breathing had become slow and controlled. Most importantly, the polite expression had disappeared from his face entirely. What remained was something cold and calculating, like a machine analyzing data. Tom, Zara said quietly. What are you thinking? He looked at her, and for a moment Zara felt a chill run down her spine. The mild-mannered cadet from yesterday was gone. What looked back at her was something that seemed to be measuring distances and evaluating threats. I am thinking about the terrain, Tom said, his voice carrying a new tone that made the other cadets stop talking. And about how hunters think. You know something about these creatures? Crix asked. Tom turned to study the forest around them, his eyes moving in patterns that reminded Zara of advanced targeting systems. I know they are predators. And predators follow predictable behavior patterns. Before anyone could ask what he meant, a sound echoed through the trees that made every cadet's blood freeze. It was a howl, but not like any animal call Zara had ever heard. It was the sound of something that existed only to hunt and kill, and it was getting closer. They have found our trail, Tom said, as calmly as if he were commenting on the weather. The other cadets looked around desperately, weapons appearing in hands that shook with fear. But Tom was doing something different. He was moving to the front of the group, placing himself between them and the direction the howl had come from. For the first time since she had met him, Zara wondered if there might be more to this unremarkable human than she had assumed. The howl came again, closer this time, and was answered by 5 others from different directions. The pack was surrounding them. And Tom was smiling. The forest went completely silent. Even the wind seemed to stop moving through the leaves. In that unnatural quiet, Princess Zara could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. The other cadets stood frozen, their weapons ready but their confidence shattered. Then the first Ravenclaw hunter stepped into view. Zara had heard descriptions of these creatures, but seeing one in person was entirely different. It stood 8 feet tall, its body covered in natural armor that looked like black metal. Crystalline claws extended from each hand, each one longer than her forearm and sharp enough to cut through starship hull plating. Its eyes glowed with an intelligence that was purely focused on killing. The hunter moved with perfect silence despite its massive size. Each step was placed with deadly precision, and its head turned slowly as it studied each member of the group. When its gaze fell on her, Zara felt like prey being evaluated by a perfect predator. More hunters appeared from different directions. 2 emerged from behind thick trees to their left. Another dropped from a high branch with no sound at all. A 5th materialized from behind a fallen log, its natural camouflage making it nearly invisible until it chose to reveal itself. The 6th hunter stepped out from directly ahead, completing the circle around their small group. The cadets pressed closer together, but Zara knew it would make no difference. These creatures had been designed to hunt and kill. No military force in galactic history had ever survived an encounter with even a single Ravenclaw hunter, and they faced 6. But something strange was happening. The hunters had stopped moving. They formed a perfect circle around the group, but none of them advanced further. Instead, they seemed to be studying something with the kind of careful attention that suggested confusion or uncertainty. Zara followed their gaze and realized they were all looking at Tom. The human cadet had moved to the front of the group and was standing completely still. His breathing was slow and controlled. His posture was balanced and ready. But most importantly, his eyes had changed completely. The polite expression was gone. The mild-mannered student had disappeared. What remained was something that looked back at the hunters with the same cold evaluation they were giving him. Tom was studying the creatures like a predator analyzing potential threats to his territory. And the hunters were responding to whatever they saw in him. The largest hunter, the one directly in front of Tom, took a step forward. Its claws extended further, and its muscles tensed for attack. But then it stopped. Something in Tom's posture or scent or presence made the creature hesitate. Tom took a single step forward. The effect was immediate and shocking. All 6 hunters moved backward simultaneously, maintaining their distance from him. The largest hunter's claws retracted slightly. Its head tilted in what looked like confusion. "What is happening?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. Tom took another step forward, and again the hunters moved back. They were not retreating in fear, but rather showing the kind of respect one apex predator gave to another when uncertain about territorial boundaries. "Impossible," Dex breathed. "Nothing makes Ravenclaw hunters back down." But Zara was watching something even more remarkable. Tom's entire body language had changed. The nervous cadet was completely gone. What stood before them moved with the fluid confidence of something that had never doubted its place at the top of any food chain. Tom raised his hand slowly, palm outward toward the largest hunter. The creature's glowing eyes focused on the gesture, and after a moment that felt like hours, it tilted its head in what could only be described as acknowledgement. "Follow me," Tom said quietly, his voice carrying a new tone that made every cadet obey without question. "Stay close. Do not run. Do not make sudden movements." He began walking directly toward the largest hunter. Zara watched in amazement as the most feared predator in galactic history stepped aside to let them pass. The hunter's eyes never left Tom, but there was no aggression in its gaze. Instead, there was something like recognition and respect. Tom led the group through the circle of hunters, moving with the calm confidence of someone taking an evening walk. The creatures maintained their positions but tracked his movement with the careful attention of guards ensuring safe passage through their territory. As they walked past the second hunter, Zara noticed something incredible. The creature lowered its head slightly as Tom passed, in what looked like a gesture of respect between equals. The third and fourth hunters moved aside without being asked, creating a clear path through the forest. The fifth hunter, the one that had been completely camouflaged, became fully visible as they approached, as if hiding would be disrespectful. When they reached the final hunter, Tom stopped and looked directly into its glowing eyes. For a long moment, human and creature studied each other. Then Tom nodded once, a gesture that was returned by the hunter before it stepped aside. They walked for another 10 minutes with the hunters following at a respectful distance. Finally, Tom stopped at a rocky outcropping that provided clear views in all directions. "They will leave us now," Tom said, his voice still carrying that new tone of absolute certainty. As if responding to his words, the hunters began to fade back into the forest. One by one, they disappeared among the trees until only the memory of glowing eyes remained. The cadets stood in stunned silence for several minutes before anyone found their voice. "How?" Crix asked, his massive frame still trembling slightly. "How did you make them retreat?" Tom turned to face the group, and Zara saw that his eyes were slowly returning to their normal expression. The predator was retreating, allowing the polite student to emerge again. "I did not make them retreat," Tom said quietly. "They chose to let us pass." "That is impossible," Rock insisted. "Ravenclaw hunters do not choose anything except which prey to kill first. They do when they encounter something they recognize as more dangerous than themselves," Tom replied. Zara stepped forward, her mind racing to understand what she had witnessed. "What did they recognize?" Tom looked at her for a long moment before answering. "They recognized what I am." "And what are you?" Zara asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer would change everything she thought she knew about humans. Tom sat down on a nearby rock and pulled out his water supply. For the first time since the hunters had appeared, he looked like the unremarkable cadet she remembered from yesterday. "I am a human," he said simply. "And humans are apex predators." Sarah laughed nervously. "Humans have no natural weapons. No armor. No enhanced strength. How can you be apex predators?" "Because we evolved on a death world where being apex predator was the only way to survive," Tom explained. "My species spent millions of years as persistence hunters. We tracked prey across continents until they collapsed from exhaustion. We hunted creatures 10 times our size and won because we never gave up." Tom took a sip of water before continuing. "Humans drove dozens of species to extinction not through superior strength, but through superior determination. When ice ages came, we adapted. When volcanoes blocked out the sun, we survived. When asteroid impacts ended other dominant species, we thrived." Nala was staring at him with new understanding in her eyes. "The hunters could sense your evolutionary history. Every human carries the genetic memory of being both prey and predator," Tom confirmed. "We survived by being tougher, more persistent, and more adaptable than anything else on our world. The Ravenclaw hunters were created to be perfect biological weapons, but they recognized something their creators never understood." "What is that?" Zara asked, though she was beginning to understand. "They recognize the scent of a species that has never learned to quit," Tom said. "A species that views every setback as a challenge to overcome. A species that turned potential extinction into an opportunity to become stronger." The group fell silent as they processed this information. Zara found herself replaying every interaction she had with Tom, seeing it all from a completely different perspective. "The Academy knew," she said suddenly. "They knew what you were when they assigned you as my escort." Tom nodded. "Human cadets are often assigned to escort visiting dignitaries who underestimate our species. It helps them understand why the galaxy recruited us." "And why did they recruit humans?" Zara asked. "Because sometimes the galaxy faces threats that cannot be defeated through superior firepower or natural abilities," Tom explained. "Sometimes you need a species that will keep fighting when everyone else has given up. A species that will find a way to survive when survival should be impossible." Dex was looking at Tom with new respect. "You never acted like an apex predator yesterday." "Because the real strength of my species is not in displaying dominance," Tom said. "It is in appearing harmless until the moment action is required. Humans learned long ago that the most dangerous predator is the one prey never sees coming." Tom stood up and checked his communication device. "Evacuation shuttle will be here in 30 minutes. The hunters will not return while I am here. As they waited for rescue, Zara found herself studying Tom with completely new eyes. Yesterday she had seen weakness where she should have recognized controlled strength. She had mistaken quiet confidence for lack of ability. Your father will want to know about this, Tom said, approaching her as the shuttle appeared in the distance. He will, Zara agreed. But my report will not be what he expected. What will you tell him? Zara watched the shuttle land, thinking about everything she had learned. I will tell him that the galaxy's defense is in the hands of a species that specializes in impossible survival. I will tell him that humans are the ultimate backup plan. Tom smiled, and for the first time Zara could see the predator lurking behind his pleasant expression. That is exactly what we are, Your Highness. When every other option fails, you call the species that does not know how to fail. As they boarded the rescue shuttle, Zara realized her entire understanding of galactic politics had changed. The Vulcan Empire had always focused on displaying strength and demanding respect through superior force. But humans had taken a different approach. They had earned their place not by proving they were stronger than everyone else, but by proving they were the ones you wanted on your side when strength alone was not enough. Looking at Tom one last time as the shuttle lifted off, Zara finally understood why the greatest military minds in the galaxy had recruited a species with no natural advantages. Sometimes the most valuable warrior was not the one who could win any fight, but the one who would never stop fighting until victory was achieved.